Hey everyone, welcome back to another video with Ricky the RBT, but I'm currently a BCBA. Today we will begin our task list breakdown videos. So the focus for today will be task list section A, measurement, task list items 1 through 3. Let's jump into it. So kicking things off, task list section A, task list item 1, prepare for data collection. This one is pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it sounds like. You're preparing to take data during your session. So what this will look like is you will gather all the materials that you'll need to collect data for today's session. You will gather all the materials, any preferred items, any reinforcing items that you've known has been reinforcing in the past. It's increased behavior from past sessions. You want to gather those items, gather those preferred items, gather those preferred activities so we have those things readily available. We want to gather our data collection tools. So if you're using things like clickers, or you're using paper data sheets or ABC data sheets, you want to make sure that you have those things readily available. If you're using digital data collection software, you want to make sure that you have your tablet available. You want to make sure that you have your phone available. You want to make sure that all these things are laid out in the workstation that you're going to be working at. So for task list item A1, prepare for data collection, these are all the things that you need to prepare for data collection. You need to make sure that you have all these things readily available. So when it's time for you to start collecting data, it is time for you to start your session, you're ready to go. You don't have to run around the clinic or run around the home or run around whatever setting that you're working in. You already have everything ready to go right in front of you for you and your client. Some other things that I did not mention was to review the support plan, review the data sheet. Give yourself a reminder of what intervention programs you guys are working on. Give yourself a reminder of what are some of those things that you worked on in the last session that you may have had trouble with, and you may want to focus on it more in today's session. You want to make sure that you're reviewing previous session notes if you can. Just so you can kind of get a refresher of what was going on in previous sessions, and you can kind of use that information to cater to today's session. All right, so that is task list section A, task list item 1, prepare for data collection. Now let's talk about task list section A, task list item number 2, implementing continuous measurement. So how you will go about implementing continuous measurement is you'll be measuring or recording every instance of the target behavior. Now you will go about this by using continuous measurement procedures such as rate, frequency, duration, latency, or inter-response time. So let's talk about those continuous measurement procedures. We'll start with frequency, or some people may refer to it as count. When you're using the continuous measurement procedure frequency, you'll be recording every instance of that target behavior. So every time that target behavior occurs, you're going to be marking it either by a tally mark, check marks. If you're using digital data collection software, then you're going to find that particular program, or you're going to find that particular target behavior on the screen on your tablet or on your phone, and you're going to collect the data that way. Every time that target behavior occurs, we're going to record every single instance. That is how we use the continuous measurement procedure frequency. So instead of me just sitting here just telling you these things, I want to try to make this video as interactive as possible. So a way that you can test yourself on collecting frequency data is you're going to track my behavior. So every time that I extend my index finger to show you the number 1, I want you to track how many times that particular behavior occurs. So again, you're going to be looking for me to extend my index finger to show you the number 1. Every time that I do this, you're going to track each occurrence of this particular behavior. So if I use my pinky or I use my thumb, that is not an operational definition for the behavior that we're targeting right now. I want you to track me using my index finger to show you the number 1. So I've shown it a few times so far now, so maybe you need to go back so you can count the number of times that I've shown you that number 1. The next continuous measurement procedure that we'll talk about today is duration. You're going to be recording how long a particular behavior lasts. So with frequency, we're going to be recording the number of times a behavior occurs. With duration, we're going to be recording how long that behavior lasts. So for example, you may use duration to track how long you're actively staring at the screen watching this video. As soon as you look away from the screen or you write something on your paper, if you're not actively staring at the screen watching this video, then the duration clock will stop. The next continuous measurement procedure that we'll talk about is rate. So rate is where you'll be recording the number of instances that a behavior occurs over a specific frame of time. So with rate, you're essentially combining frequency and duration together. So you'll be counting the number of instances that a behavior occurs, and you'll be focusing on how many times that behavior occurs over a specific time frame. Now this time frame should not be open-ended. It should be an hour, it should be 2 hours, it should be over the course of 10 minutes, it should be over the course of 20 minutes, it should be a specific time frame. So for today's video, if we record the number of instances that I show you the number 1 over the course of this video, then you will have the number of instances that I actively show you the number 1 over the duration of this entire video. So with rate, you'll specify the frequency over time. The next continuous measurement procedure that we'll discuss is latency. So latency is where we'll be recording the amount of time between the onset of the stimulus and the actual response to that stimulus. So we can record the amount of time between me asking you a question and you actually responding to my question. The clock will start after I ask you the question. Whatever the question is, however long it takes you to answer that question, the amount of time between me asking the question and you answering it is the latency. The last continuous measurement procedure that we'll discuss is inter-response time. Now with inter-response time, you're going to be recording the time between separate occurrences of the same behavior. So if you've noticed, I've continued to show you the number 1 as I've been explaining the different continuous measurement procedures. Now with inter-response time, we can count the amount of time between the last time that I showed you my index finger and this time where I'm showing you my index finger. Since it's the same behavior, I'm showing you my index finger every single time. Since it's the same behavior, we can count the amount of time between the last time that I showed you my index finger and the latest time when I showed you my index finger. Now, let's talk about task list item 3, implementing discontinuous measurement procedures. Now, how you go about implementing discontinuous measurement procedures is you observe a target behavior for a specified period of time using discontinuous measurement procedures like whole interval recording, partial interval recording, and momentary time sampling. So we'll start with whole interval recording. With whole interval recording, you're going to be specifying whether or not a target behavior occurred for the entire interval or not. So let's say we want to observe someone for a full hour, and we decide to break that full hour into 5-minute intervals. So now we have 12 5-minute intervals over the course of this hour. So now that we have 12 5-minute intervals, we have 12 opportunities to observe this behavior using the discontinuous measurement procedure, whole interval recording. During these opportunities, we're going to observe this behavior and we're going to specify whether or not the target behavior is occurring for the entire 5-minute interval or not. So whatever that target behavior is, if they decide to engage in that target behavior for 4 minutes and 58 seconds, and then they stop engaging in that behavior at the 4-minute and 59-second mark on into the 5-minute mark, then we'll have to mark that interval as a no, indicating that that behavior did not occur within that 5-minute interval. Again, with whole interval recording, you want the target behavior to be occurring for the entire interval. If they stop engaging in that behavior before the interval is over, it's as if that behavior never occurred. Now let's talk about partial interval recording. With partial interval recording, you're going to specify whether or not the behavior occurred at any point throughout the interval. So, same scenario, we have our 12 different opportunities to observe this particular target behavior, and we want to see if they're going to engage in that target behavior at any point throughout that 5-minute interval. So they start interval number 2, and let's say 3 minutes in, they engage in that behavior for 3 seconds, or they engage in it for 30 seconds, or they engage in it for the entire rest of the duration of that particular interval. We're going to go, once that interval is over with, we're going to go to our data sheet and we're going to indicate that in that interval, they did engage in that particular behavior. How long they engage in that behavior does not matter. With partial interval recording, we're looking to see if they're going to engage in that target behavior at any point. So it's different from whole interval. With whole interval, we want them to engage in that target behavior for the entire interval. With partial interval recording, we're looking for them to engage in that behavior at any point throughout the interval. The last discontinuous measurement procedure that we'll talk about is momentary time sampling. Now with momentary time sampling, we're looking to see if the person that we're observing is going to engage in that particular target behavior at a specific point in time. So if we're looking to observe someone for 5 whole minutes, at the end of those 5 whole minutes, we'll look to see if they're engaging in that particular target behavior, and we'll specify a yes or a no on our data sheet. So an applied example of momentary time sampling is when I was working in a clinic. I had a client that engaged in high frequencies of vocal stereotypy. And so the behavior analyst wanted to use the discontinuous measurement procedure, momentary time sampling, to measure the vocal stereotypy. And so at a specific point in time, every 10 minutes, we will listen in to hear whether or not they were engaging in vocal stereotypy or not. So that is our first RBT task list breakdown video. Next video is going to be on task list items 4 through 6. So definitely be on the lookout for that video and for future videos. Definitely make sure that you subscribe and turn on that notification bell. If you took any notes, definitely leave me a thumbs up. And if you guys have any questions or you guys need any assistance with anything, please comment and let me know. Follow my Instagram at Ricky the RBT. You can message me with questions as well. Thank you guys for stopping and watching this video. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.